if people want to bring surfboards and mosh with them at shows, like let's have at it. So
Totally, man. That sounds fun to me, you know?
yeah. We are good to go. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in for another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. Super excited to be doing a little FaceTime sesh with Cody from Drain. Thanks again for taking some time of your day to do this with me.
Yeah, no worries, man. My pleasure.
So, obviously, I wanted to time this episode around your guys' releases, that just came out a couple days ago. But as far as the few people who may have clicked on the video just maybe not knowing who Drain is, could you just give a proper introduction on you and the band that you play in?
Yeah, I play guitar in Drain, and Drain is just a little 4-piece band from Santa Cruz that plays aggressive music, and we just have a lot of fun with it. That's about it. Yeah.
And then Cody, so as far as like how I like to interview all our guests is like kind of getting context on how they got into punk and hardcore or metal music in general. So could you kind of take it back in time with us just to intro how you started playing guitar and how you first started going to shows in Santa Cruz?
Sure. Well, I mean, I started playing guitar mainly because of like Ace Frehley from the band Kiss. That was like a huge influence on me. And just through like just listening to music from my parents, like my dad was super into like Ozzy Osbourne and like, like all like the kind of 80s like glam stuff. And so that was like a huge influence on me. As far as like punk and hardcore goes, like shoot, I mean, I remember listening to the Ramones around that time, just kind of like starting off with like metal stuff and then getting towards like punk. And then when I went to like my first like local hardcore show, it was probably about like 14. And I'm originally from a town about an hour away from Santa Cruz called Salinas.
Okay.
So that I went to one of my first hardcore shows there when I was about 14 years old. But yeah, so I didn't grow up going to Santa Cruz shows. I didn't start going to Santa Cruz shows till a little bit later. But like till I started like being able to drive and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah. Cool. And we're getting a little bit of a lag on some of those things, but I think I picked up most of what you were saying as far as the main people who were influencing you to start playing guitar. Were awesome. You so talking about like the first couple of bands that you were playing in, obviously starting at a young age, like most of us anyways, were you always playing guitar? Were you always in charge of like writing riffs and songwriting as far as things go for most of those bands?
Well, my very first band ever, I actually was playing drums. I started playing guitar first, and I didn't start playing drums till a couple of years later. But all my first bands were like, I was like drums. Like I didn't start playing guitar in a band till maybe I was about 21, 20 or something. So my first band was like this band called the Barones, and it was like a power pop style, like Cheap Trick, just kind of like fun stuff, And that was when I was about like 14, 15. And then I didn't join my first hardcore band until I was about just out of high school, like 17, 18. And that was drums as well. And that's a band called Gardens, who we're still together. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Cool. And then as far as maybe the origins of Drain, I know at least a couple of the members were, at least for me, were first introduced playing in some other bands like Hands of God, for example. I think that's the very first time I met Sandy. But as far as how that band formed, can you kind of give me the origins? Because I thought it was interesting just before you guys put out the record, Sam put out a post showing how long the band has been around. Like you guys, I think in general, people in hardcore are really bad at like, oh yeah, Drain is a new band, but you guys have been around since like 2016 or something like that.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about like the origins, and then as far as like how you guys have really, worked your asses off to kind of get to the point that you are right now.
Cool. Well, I seem to always get it wrong, but it's like I want to say that they started in 2014 because I didn't join until about 2016 or somewhere around there.
Okay.
They all, I think Sammy, Tim, and the previous members, they all met in college in Santa Cruz and kind of started the band. And then I didn't join until I didn't meet Sammy until about 2015 at like an ACXDC show that my old band played, my Gardens. And I met him there, and then we added each other on Facebook, and then that's where I found his band Drain. They put out their first demo, and I was like, wow, this is cool. It's like a crossover kind of thrashy feel. Like not a lot of bands were doing that at that time, at least in our area. So that's cool. So I kind of just kept up with them and would go to their shows and stuff, and then I kind of just became friends with all of them. And then sooner or later, they're like, oh, you play guitar? Oh, you want to fill in for bass? And then sooner or later, I worked my way up to guitar, and that's kind of how it all worked out. But
right.
But yeah.
So your guitar work really wasn't only until the release before the 2018 promo. Is that right?
Yeah, because up until, let's see, because Time Enough at Last, like the Blue album, like I didn't really contribute to that a whole lot because Tim kind of already had like a bunch of riffs. Because Tim did a lot of like the riff writing in the early days and stuff, and when I joined, I was kind of like, oh, and I just kind of learned all his stuff, and which is all good stuff. But yeah, I didn't really start like writing until probably about like the promo, I would say, I guess, like the
yeah.
So
the era of the Sharks, if you will.
yeah, definitely,
yeah. And, definitely want to touch on the whole, like, because I feel like that was a major turning point as far as like musically for you guys, as far as like, not even just like the songwriting, but also just how you guys were packaging certain things and, kind of going with this like California surf culture vibe in the music. But that was something that was super cool for me to see as being someone who films bands time and time again, to kind of see the progression as far as, it's one thing to listen to demos and EPs and see the progression, but to actually see,
right.
People, one dude moshing on like the very first few shows. And, I just watched your LDB set like just before our call here, and just crazy response for you guys. So maybe talk about how that process has been. Cause obviously, like I said before, that, you guys haven't just shown up on the scene. Like you've been around for a minute. You guys have worked really hard to tour to different places and really get your name out there. So maybe talk about some of the early days as far as like setting up the Drain agenda and really kind of doing the process that every band needs to do as far as like, touring and playing shows.
Well, shoot. I can remember when we first started doing like our first little tours and stuff, like it was very fun, but like very hard because, we didn't know a lot of people, especially like just outside of like, the US and everything, or just outside of, our town. And, it was very like, it was just very like taxing. I mean, because Sammy would have to like hit up like a lot of people and just kind of like see if we could like, oh, can we maybe hop on the show, whatever. And, so like looking back on those times, they were really fun, but they were just really like difficult because we were just trying to like just hop on a show. I mean, we were just trying to play any show we could get and stuff. At the end of the day, we all just love playing shows. I mean, but yeah, I mean, like it just as far as just like like giving advice to someone who like wants to just like get up to a certain level or whatever, it's like you just need to just keep like plugging away at it and just keep I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a certain way to like to word it, but it's just like you just need to keep pushing, and like sooner or later, like people will like start to like catch on at some point. Just kind of. I know it sounds typical, but just kind of stick to your guns and just kind of like even though you go somewhere, you play somewhere, and there's like you're playing to one person. I mean, just it's all good. Just have as much fun as you can, and fucking. And then by the next time you go there might be 10 people, and the next time you go there might be 30, and you just kind of have to keep going with it, and you really have to have love for the for touring and stuff like that in order to just keep. If you get discouraged like too early on, like it's like it's kind of just like bad, because like you need to just like keep like just plugging away, and sooner or later like you will make it somewhere to a point where you can play to a bunch of people, and you know what I mean. It's just like you just need to have like a good mindset about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't.
Yeah, and especially for like the fact that every band like wants to, you know, tour full time, and you know, lots of people are hitting the road. Maybe not right now as far as like the timing of the world right now, but you know, there needs to be, you know, handouts aren't something that's common in hardcore. That's not encouraged. It's like, you know, if bands are, you know, really making an effort, and you know, certain people are really recognizing that, and that's the same for if you're shooting photos with bands. Just because you have a camera doesn't mean you should be able to, you know, be on stage to take pictures of bands. You should, you know, build up a portfolio, and you know, ask and have a good, you know, personality to be like, hey, like, is it cool if I do this, versus expecting that to happen. So yeah, that's a huge thing for sure.
For sure, man. I mean, like just good effort and hard work is just can be applicable to any parts of life, really. You know what I mean? It's just
100%.
Just got to keep working. And that's simple as that, you know?
Yeah. And did you find that maybe some people weren't as, I guess, like maybe they weren't as like into the idea of you guys hopping on certain shows at the beginning because you weren't in, maybe because I think there's a lot of bands from your area that are either like straight you know, hardcore two-step kind of style, or there's more of the metalcore kind of side, and you guys are kind of I did a podcast with Mitch from Low End, for example, and he was saying like thrash and crossovers tends to go over some people's heads sometimes as far as, you know, just the style overall. So did you feel like that was kind of the case when you guys were kind of, you know, trying to really hit it hard at the beginning?
Oh, totally, man. It's just because like, you know, because at the end of the day, it's like, you know, we are a hardcore band, you know, it's like, but even though we draw influence from, you know, thrash and metal and stuff like that, like at the end of the day, we are hardcore. But you are right. Like a lot of bands and a lot of like hardcore kids and just people, whatever, like kind of like they'll see like something that's not just like your straightforward type of like like hardcore music or like hardcore band. It'll just kind of be like, whoa, this is like too weird for me, even though it's like looking at it's not that weird, you know what I mean? It's just like, but yeah, we you know, we especially in the beginning, like it was kind of hard to like fit in, because I know like a lot of people kind of thought we were kind of goofy and kind of just like but then again, also back then we kind of had like a different like style, I guess. We had like a different, like I guess it was more like a party thrash, municipal waste type of deal back then for us. So a lot of people kind of thought we were just kind of too like goofy and just kind of like, oh, this isn't like either heavy enough or it's not like whatever enough, you know. There's always something there that wasn't enough, you know. But I think I feel like we finally solidified our sound to how we've always wanted it, and to the point where it's like, you know, we can have those influences and then also have like the parts that like, you know, kids love and stuff like that, and also that we love, and you know, just it all just kind of like comes together over time. It's just maturing of the music, if you will, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And
cool.
And I think like as far as like the not the relatability, but the way that people can connect, especially on the newer material with the, because I remember when you guys put out the promo in, I think that was 2018, late 2018. And I was like, this is just a bunch of sharks just eating someone. Like those kind of little things, like immediately I was like, I need to know more about this. And then obviously when you guys started to put out new stuff, and even the new album, like having, you know, the intro and outro kind of be the tide of the sea in a way, I thought that was just like a brilliant move by you guys. Was that just kind of a natural progression, or was it more like, no, like let's really try to brand this a little bit more to California overall?
It wasn't really like a try to brand it. I mean, it kind of just came naturally, I guess. I guess like the whole idea was pretty much like Sammy's idea. I mean, like, because the thing is, like, me and Sammy, like, we really love, like, just like I mean, we all love like '80s thrash and everything, but me and Sammy, specifically, like, we love like, like, well, for instance, like one of Sammy's favorite thrash bands is MOD. So like he, the MOD has like a lot of like, kind of like surfy, kind of like shark, kind of, little artwork and stuff like that. And then like a lot of those thrash bands kind of do. So he was like, so Sam was like, oh, I was like, I kind of want to do something. I want to have some kind of artwork on the same like level as this or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like we should like do something like that. And then that's how it came out, and
right.
But yeah, just kind of like that's kind of been the natural thing. And I guess like, now that I think about it, people do kind of associate us with like, surfboards and stuff like that because the whole Santa Cruz. I mean, I get it, you know what I mean? But it's just like it wasn't really like us trying to like brand like, oh, we need to like, brand ourselves as this because we're from this or whatever. It just kind of like came naturally,
Sure.
So
yeah, and there's some things that you can like have a little bit of an idea, but then like I guess your audience can kind of take it in its own way, and like it's like, well, I guess we're like associated like not with like you can usually like steer the ship in a way, but sometimes the wind's blowing in a direction. It's like, well, like let's lean into this, and if people want to bring surfboards and mosh with them at shows, like let's have at it. So
totally, man, that sounds fun to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the new album, California Cursed, on Revelation Records. It's a 10-song LP.
Yes.
Yeah. And one thing that was interesting to me was like just as far as the guitar work goes, because I was comparing that to older stuff that you guys did, and there was always like a good, even though I guess there was a change up as far as like who was the main riff contributor in a way, it felt like it was pretty cohesive. And the only thing that like went from like maybe like starting ground to like way more solidified was like Sammy's vocals. Like I felt like they just got wilder and wilder with every release that you guys did. But to speak on the guitar work, because I play in a thrash kind of crossover band as well, and I'm the only guitar player, so there's always this level for me when I'm writing stuff of like not making it too complicated, because if I mess up, it's like it's not like I have another guitar player on the other side of the stage that I can help carry me in a way. So obviously like the riffs are very, very sick, and how like do you find that kind of a struggle for you as well, where you're trying to figure out like how can I make like the absolute nuttiest fight riff without being like too overboard, that I can still like have it not dumbed down for hardcore kids, so to speak, but like a little bit more that style in a sense?
I mean, like to be honest, it's like I don't really think about that too much. I mean, because I kind of like always like go on like the whole the basis of like I kind of just want all my riffs to come out naturally, so it's like if a mosh part comes, then it comes, and if it doesn't, then I just kind of just write riffs to write riffs, I guess. I don't really, I mean, there's obviously there's a couple times where I'll be like, oh, I want to write this type of part or whatever, and like I mean that always happens, but but usually it just they kind of just all kind of flows naturally, and I usually don't struggle with like trying to figure out like the whole like 50-50 to kind of just appease like hardcore kids and appease like metalheads or whatever. It just kind of like that's just like my style of playing, I guess. More or less. Yeah.
Because I know like the band that I'm playing in now like was really influenced by this other kind of crossover band that I joined when I lived in a different city, and they were like heavily influenced by like Power Trip. Like shout out Vince Ha, who's my other guitar player, and I would always be like, oh, Vince, like these riffs are so sick, I'm excited to play them. And he was like, honestly, they're pretty stock. Like there's nothing really crazy about them. Like there's like, your pretty like and then like open chugs, so to speak. So how have you kind of like forced that like creative aspect where there's like, yeah, like there's this riff makes sense to have it a little bit more just like straight up like chugging to the the tempo of the song, but like still have a little bit of like, you know, flavor on the lead side, so to speak?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of like, you know, just structuring the song, I guess. You know, it's just kind of like, you know, we'll start writing a song, and then like, you know, I might have some crazy riff for it, and then I'll be like, okay, well then like, you know, then we're gonna transition to this part, that maybe it doesn't need all of that, because like a lot of the things with music for me is like, sometimes I'll listen to a song and be like, oh my god, like that song was just there's too much going on in that song.
Yeah.
Or then sometimes I'll hear a song and I'll be like, oh man, they could have added way more to that.
Yeah.
So I guess like, so it just kind of just like how we're structuring it and how we feel. It's like, okay, maybe we don't need a lot. Maybe we can just kind of like simplify this little part of the song, and then we can go crazy on this other part. You know, it just kind of depends on what the song needs and how we feel in the moment and stuff like that. And but I like variety, because, you know, obviously like I love simplified, dumbed down hardcore, and then I also love like very like crazy thrashy riffs, you know, in the style of like Violence and like Testament and stuff like that. So you know, I love to blend those two styles.
I noticed there's some sections on the album where it's kind of like a, you know, you would be playing the riff on one side of the stage, and then it kind of kicks to two. But I didn't notice that you were kind of doing that via a live thing. So is that something that you've decided that like, okay, on the album it's gonna like pan left and then it will be both, or vice versa, but live I'm just gonna play it, you know, as one signal, so to speak?
Yeah, we kind of just did that for the sake of that album. I mean, just because I guess it just sounds cool, just to be completely honest. But live, you know, like I don't know, you know, like I've for one thing, I've always thought about, you know, maybe recruiting a second guitarist, maybe somewhere down the road. You know, just for the sake of just like, you know, just writing cooler stuff and better stuff or whatever. You know, just having a second person to help me out with shit. You know, harmonizing this and that. But for right now, like it's cool. Like, I mean, being a 4-piece is really awesome. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Pantera, so they were also a 4-piece. They kind of, you know, Dimebag did the whole soloing over the bass and just him. So I kind of resonate with it. So it works out right now. But I don't know. Yeah, as far as like live, I mean, we just kind of just one signal and just go. You know what I mean? Just that's about it, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and to talk about like Drain's, you know, live aspect, you know, like something that I've always, because the first time I saw you guys live was when you guys came up to play Vancouver for the DBK 5-year, and still like top 3 sets of all the bands that played that weekend, because it was so, because I think you guys have a magic recipe as far as like giving people what they want but leaving them like wanting so much more, and I think that's like such the right move, especially in hardcore, like not, you know, drowning out like a 4-minute or 5-minute song. Like it's very short and to the point, and as soon as it's done you want to consume it or re-listen to the song again. So like, again, like, is that just a nature in your guys is like, like let's be here for a short time but a good time, and you know, like was that tactical, or was that like that's the vibe that we want to do, we want to be in and out real quick?
That's a good question, because I feel like it's half tactical, half just kind of like how we wanted it. I guess like the tactical aspect of it would kind of be, well, like it oh shoot, I think the camera just
no, you're all good.
Yeah, we're good. The tactical aspect of it would be this is something that came from my good friend, my old vocalist from my old band, Gardens. His name's Jacob Juarez. Shouts out to Jacob. He once told me a long time ago, he said that when it comes to like vocals and lyrics, like less is more. And I remember like I took that with me. I was like, like I'm always like thinking about like less is more, less is more. So I guess I kind of was like telling Sammy that and all them, and I was like, yo, like, you know, maybe, you know, less is more. Like maybe we should just, you know, make the set shorter. And that's something like we all kind of like agreed with, you know, and stuff. And so, and we just figured, you know, it's like if, you know, people are going to be wanting to hear more if we're playing like less songs. And also too, I mean, I guess I can speak for all of us too. It's like, you know, sitting through like a long, like drawn out set can be like kind of boring sometimes, you know what I mean? And it's like I mean, no one really want to sit through like a crazy long hardcore set. I mean, because hardcore sets are usually supposed to be short, you know what I mean? And by nature, anyway. So we just figured, like we'll just kind of do that. So yeah, so I guess I would say it was like half tactical, half just kind of like, I guess what we kind of resonated with.
Yeah, so. And I think there's a weird balance of like, if you're at that like Code Orange or like Knocked Loose level, like, and you're the headliner of a bill, yeah, like you should probably play for at least 30 to 45 minutes. But as soon as it gets like to over and out, like I remember certain sets that I filmed, and maybe it's different because I'm holding a camera and it's like just heavy, and I'm just like, okay, can we like. When can I get a cue that it's like the second to last songs or whatever?
Right.
But yeah, like when you guys played Vancouver, it was like 11 minutes, and it was like when it was over, I was like, oh, like that's it. And again, it was like I wanted more. And again, mentioning that the LDB set, like Louisville is like on the opposite side of the states as far as for you guys, so like to travel all that way, and you probably were given like a 20-minute block, or depending on where it was in the day, and you're like, nah, 12 minutes sounds good. It was almost weird to hear Sammy talk for so long in between some of those in between some of those songs, because usually it's just song ends and then the next one kind of goes.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, like, LDB was really, really fun, man. That was like, because I usually go into things like kind of just not expecting like a whole lot, you know what I mean? Like, cause I'm like, oh, I know it's gonna be really, really fun. I'm gonna be able to see my friends and like play with friends, and it's gonna be a good time. But I always go in with the mindset of like, oh, like it's not gonna be like that crazy, but then it ends up being really crazy, and I'm like, holy crap, like this is like insane, So the response was really, really cool, and people were having a really good time. And for me, as long as people are having a good time, stage diving, smiles on their faces, like that's my job as a musician is pretty much done. Is like, because that's like why I really do it. I just want to see smiles on people's faces and while they're fucking diving.
Yeah, and like I think that was another thing, at least when I first saw you guys, like just the overall like vibe that you guys had was like fun, thrashy, hard-hitting hardcore music, but like as far as like everyone's just like it's not about like pushing any specific like agenda or like want to encourage violence. It was just like, we're here to have fun. You guys have like pushed the like Drain Is Your Friend on some of those things, and it's like, yeah, like I feel like as the band is like almost like this entity that I want to hang out with, because when I hang out with you guys, then it's just surfboards and craziness. So.
Well, shoot, man, come over to LA. We'll hang out, man.
Yeah, I would love that. Speaking of Santa Cruz and like that area, something that you guys did kind of prior to the initial hints that a new album was coming, is you guys did a skateboard cover photo shoot, so to speak. And I think that was with I think I have the name here, Santa Cruz Skate Shop. I hope I'm saying that right. Skateboard, yeah. So for context, for anyone who's listening or watching that doesn't know what that is, essentially there was this classic image of the same skate shop, different band, different skateboard, but you guys essentially recreated it with you guys playing and someone essentially like flying over you. Can you give me a little behind the scenes as far as how that opportunity was presented, or if that was an idea of the band and you guys approached the shop?
Oh wait, you cut out. Oh no, you're good.
Okay.
So I guess like how it started was so our friend Malachi from Santa Cruz, he plays in some bands like Scowl and Joshua and stuff, and he I guess the dude that was taking the picture, he was like he came into the skate shop that Malachi works at, and he was like, I'm looking for a band to like recreate the picture, of like a Blast and Rob Roscoff, from the '80s. And then he's like, I'm just looking for like a Santa Cruz band, like I don't really know where to find that. And then Malachi was like, well, my boys in Drain, like they're like a Santa Cruz band, and like they're doing their thing, like you should hit them up. So that's basically how it like all kind of came together and hit us up. And then we just kind of just went over to this little like warehouse part of Santa Cruz, and then we just kind of just filmed it. And it was really fun because I've never done anything like that before ever. They were just kind of like, because it's funny because like when people like watch like the little like video and stuff and they kind of like look at it, it's like, I don't know, they like for me it was like we were just kind of like I was like headbanging to like nothing basically. Like we were just kind of like we were like pretending to play, and I was like windmilling, and I was like, oh, it's like super weird. Like we had like someone's phone in the background like playing like one of our like old songs, like just so we can kind of like keep in time, but it was like very like low, and I was just kind of like in the front just like, and we're all just like kind of doing our thing, and like Tim was like pretending to play, and it was like really funny. And then like it was just like, yeah, it was a good time. But I'm really glad we did it because I'm glad we could pay homage to the original picture, which is an honor for sure.
And pretty cool in the sense that like Blast and Drain, as far as names wise, are like the same length and very similar like font styles, same amount of members. So like it was kind of serendipitous that all kind of happened. But it was, I watched that video and it was like really cool to see you guys doing that. But how many tries did it take to get that photo? Because there was a few like outtakes, so to speak, of as skateboarding is, like if you're I
mean, if I would have done it in one take, that would have been amazing. But I mean, he did an amazing job anyway. But I to be honest, I don't really know how many takes it took. I mean, because we were just like having a lot of fun with it. And we were just kind of like I know like I couldn't tell you how many, like, cause I wasn't counting really, but once he finally got it, it was like, okay, sick, and then we got a sick ass picture. And but I mean, but it was just really fun, like just trying to get it right, and we were just like laughing the whole time, and just like, so it was just cool,
Yeah.
But
and like I thought that was a really cool, like, I don't know if it was necessarily planned around the release of like also promoting the record, obviously, like throwing up that photo with the album to help promote it was the right move, but at least at the time, like, was it more like this is just kind of a cool crossover thing to do versus like I think a lot of bands in hardcore kind of get stuck in the rinse and repeat cookie cutter like mentality and don't think about doing certain things that kind of like not break the internet, but like are more eye-catching in the sense of like, here's a new record, here's a music video, here's a new t-shirt design, like thinking about different ways to either collab with people or do something that's a little outside the box.
Totally, man. I agree because I feel like because like, well, for myself too, like, I mean, I am super into like metal and stuff, and I love like like 80s metal too, like 80s thrash, 80s glam. And those are very like they have a lot of like music videos, like they like those genres, like very like music video heavy and like very like just like they just do like different things than a hardcore band would do, because hardcore bands are typically like stripped down, and which isn't bad. I mean, that's cool, but but also for myself being into metal as well, it's like I always like to like blend other things. I think it's the same thing for all of us too. It's like because we're all into different things other than just hardcore. So it's like we like to just blend as much stuff as we can, and just try to not kind of stick to the whole like, oh, we just release a tape and then blah 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 and like that. You know what I mean? Just little stuff. We like to just do things that we think are fun, and then obviously that like that we think that other people will also enjoy too. But mainly like what we resonate with and what we like and what we enjoy, because that's at the end of the day, that's what we all do it for, just for our you know what I mean, just for us to have fun and have a good time. And and most things aren't a replacement of doing the tried and true things like playing shows, putting out good recorded well produced music, things like that. But I'm always kind of pushing like the idea of like thinking about other people that you can collaborate with, creating different kinds of content that kind of could just
that one little thing that could kind of pop and, propel you guys or any band to kind of the next thing. And I thought that that shoot was like a really cool move for you guys. And
thanks, man.
As far as the time of recording this, you guys are doing another thing to help kind of promote the album is tomorrow you guys, we're recording this on Tuesday. Tomorrow you guys are going live with Sonny from Hey 56 to watch your This Is Hardcore set and also like chat with people. And it's very crucial, especially like in these kind of days, to be thinking about ways to do like other kinds of stuff like that, because you can't just hit the road right now. So what's your thought process going into that? Do you remember that This Is Hardcore set very, very well?
I not very well, because like it was funny. I was talking to Sammy about this the other day. Like I don't really know about like Tim or whatever, but like but for me and Sammy, like we definitely like kind of like black out when we play, I guess. It's like because Sammy will like he'll definitely like mention, he's like, oh yeah, I was like, I barely remember that set because he's just going so crazy and he's screaming and he's just like eyes closed, he's just jumping around, and then like for me it's like my hair's always in my face, so like I don't really like I'm kind of just like looking down, just like playing my stuff, headbanging, and then so I don't really get to see like what everything looked like and stuff until I see the video, and I'm like, oh, like that was cool, but yeah, as far as like that set, like I mean I remember some parts of it, but I'm very, very excited to see the video because, I just, it was a really fun set. And I love to like relive like those moments and stuff. It was the same thing for LDB, and I was like waiting for the video to come out, and it finally did. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is way like, cooler than like I remembered it to be, just cause my hair was in my face and everything. So, but
yeah, there's a lot of focus, especially if you're like, just a fast band. Like there's lots of things to just like make sure, especially if you're coming all the way from California to Louisville or Philadelphia to play a set, you want to make sure it's good. But yeah, like that's a big thing that I say as far as like archiving bands is like, it's my job, or Steven or Sonny's or whoever, to kind of catch all those moments and then package them into a book, a video book, so to speak.
Totally.
Yeah. So as far as like other stuff that you guys have planned, for, it's kind of a weird thing, because I'm seeing a lot of people are releasing their music right now, like despite being everyone's like quarantined, but arguably it's a good time because everyone's at home and they have nothing to do, so to speak.
Right.
So do you guys have any other ideas or plans to kind of keep the conversation around California Cursed in people's ears, so to speak?
I mean, we don't really have like a plan or whatever, but I mean, we just I don't know, we're just gonna try to do as much as we can to just kind of just keep busy and to kind of fill up space where we can't play shows, because that's what's really like killing us right now. I mean, like we all collectively love to play live, and it just kind of sucks like not being able to just play a show. Like legit, if I could play a show tonight, like I would be out my door in a second, but unfortunately that's not going to happen for a minute. But yeah, I mean, we're just gonna like just kind of try to keep busy with things like just like stuff like this, what we're doing right now, like with Sonny tomorrow, and just just kind of just try to stay busy with stuff that doesn't involve live shows, what I mean? So
yeah, and obviously like that was a huge reason why I reached out to you, is like like I've been a fan of you guys ever since I saw you in Vancouver, and wanted to get to pick your brain a little bit about the behind the scenes, but also to help promote the album, because it's just been on repeat for me. What is maybe one of your favorite songs on the album, or maybe one of the hardest ones to craft riff wise?
Well, one of my favorite songs, I would have to say, I want to say it's White Coat Syndrome now. And it's funny that I bring that up because, and I've been telling this story to people, is that like, because to me it seems like, because I've been asking a lot of people like oh, like what's been your favorite song so far, and it's always been like, oh, like White Coat Syndrome, White Coat Syndrome, like that's been like the main one. You know, I've noticed people have been reposting that one specifically. And it's funny because like when we first wrote that, like that was like the last song we had to write one more to make it 10 tracks, you know. So that was the last song, and so we kind of just came up with that from scratch. And in the beginning, like there was some riffs that I was satisfied with, but then there was like, you know, a couple that I was just like, oh, I felt like to me, knowing that it was kind of last minute and kind of like, because we wrote it like a couple days before we went to the studio. So for me, it felt kind of like rushed and kind of like filler. I was like, oh, this is probably going to be like the filler track of like the album. I was like, God damn, you know. But as time went on, and then we recorded it, and then it kind of just got stuck in my mind a little more, like, and it kind of became, and like once I like listened to it more and kind of like understood it for what it was, I was like, oh, okay, like now it's like my favorite track. And like it's really funny how it has became like other people's like favorite track as well, you know what I mean? Which is, it's just like a really funny story I like to tell to people.
Yeah.
But and then as far as the hardest one riff wise, probably maybe Character Fraud. We've yet to play that one live yet. I mean, well, for a lot of the songs, but it's like Character Fraud, and then probably, I don't know. Character Fraud's like kind of hard, because there's just like that song specifically is like very riffy. Like that one's like really, there's like a lot going on with that one. So I would imagine, yeah, that one is like pretty hard, and it probably, and when we start to play it live, like I'm sure that one's gonna be pretty difficult as well. So but yeah, you know.
Yeah. And another thing, as far as the album's concerned, like I know that you guys included the 2 songs that you put out on the promo on the main record, and it was so hard to kind of like hear the differences as far as like, because that's a very common thing for bands to do. They'll, you know, throw a couple songs on from either an EP or whatever to kind of stretch it out.
Right.
But there's always like the, you know, like Knocked Loose, for example, like they did a re-record of like All My Friends, and you know there's all this debate of like which version of that song is better, because you know there's sometimes people or bands will want to like update certain riffs or like, you know, add another thing at the end. Was that going through your mind as far as like, because I'm guilty of like writing a riff and then I record it, I'm like, oh, I do want to like just add a little change like when I'm playing it live, or did you want to keep it like true to the promo and kind of have it as a, not a copycat, but like this is it, just like on the album, and it's all cohesive that way?
Right. Well, I guess like you know, when we first recorded Army of One, you know, like the original way, and then also too, you know, we changed up our tuning, so now like we're for the past year we've been playing an E flat, and at that time we were playing an E standard.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah,
we went down, and that was just from something I wanted to do, because I just like a lot of like my favorite bands are all like kind of like an E flat, you know, and stuff like that. A lot of like my favorite thrash bands too, like Demolition Hammer, Slayer, you know, all that stuff, you know. But like as far as like the like how like changing and stuff like that, like I what I tend to do live is like you know, like we'll make a song, and then live like I'll kind of just put like my own spin on things, usually like on like little licks and stuff that like I'm like, oh, like, I kind of like this better as time goes on. And I guess that's kind of like what happened with Army of One, because well, and California Curse too, because but specifically with Army of One, like there's like certain parts that like I kind of like made different, you know, like kind of like the, you know, the Army of One motherfucker, like that part, like the dun 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 dun, dun, like I kind of switched up the rhythm of it like slightly, like I just, and then there's like a little part towards the end of Army of One that's like I just kind of add like some little like melodic part to it that I don't know if like people really catch on to. But there's just like little like nuances and little like, you know, intricacies that like, you know, that I like to add to like my you know, riffs and stuff like that. And you know, so I guess to answer your question, like, yeah, it's like, you know, we I didn't want to keep it tried and true to the original thing. I wanted to kind of like, kind of fine tune it, I guess you could say,
Yeah. And musicians overall are just notorious for just like always being super critical of like, not feeling like it's finished. I'm very guilty of that myself.
Totally.
And I think that there's a little bit of a thing there too, where like, when you see a band, when they play a certain song live, they'll do it in a certain way, or maybe make a certain thing a bit shorter. So you have different ways to appreciate like listening to a song live versus it recorded. Yeah. There's a lot of really cool little intricacies to kind of catch in the live setting. As far as like, we didn't really touch on any gear stuff. I don't know if you're much of a gear head as far as like tone and amps and pedals and guitars.
Oh yeah, I am these days for sure. Like when I first started playing for Drain, like I really wasn't. I didn't know too much about gear, just aside from like, you just put the head on the cab and like that's it, like type of stuff. But as time went on, I just kind of like learned because especially at that time, I was still playing in my other band Garden, so I was like kind of dedicating my life to kind of just playing drums and stuff like that. So I was playing drums from the time when I was like 17 to like up until like I joined Drain. Then I started like doing guitar a lot, so that's when I kind of started like learning about gear and stuff. And what I'm rocking right now is I have a Bugera 5150 clone, and that is what is that one? The 120 watt one. And then I have a 16 ohm orange cab. And my pedal board is I have a Super OD going into an NS2 noise suppressor, going into just a Polytune, just kind of like a simple setup for my pedal board.
Yeah.
But I want to add some more things to it. Like, I've had like a harmonizer at one point, like the PS6 harmonizer. Then I don't know. I kind of want to do something like I kind of want to get like some like 80s glam kind of vibes, like for the solos. Like I kind of want to do some like chorus pedal, digital delay type of feel. So yeah, we'll see. I always like to experiment with my pedals. I'm always just kind of like taking stuff out, putting stuff in, and so. But for right now, it's just those 3 pedals, just very simple setup.
Yeah.
And then I'm also rocking a Jackson, which is one of the best guitars I've ever owned. Like I got my Jackson maybe 2.5 years ago, and it was like, it's legit just been the best guitar I've ever owned. Like it just feels so good. And like, cause I've always like rocked with like Dean guitars and like Epiphone and stuff like that. And I never really gave Jackson a chance until like now. And I was like, oh wow, I was like, these are really, really cool. So now I'm kind of like a Jackson guy for sure.
Yeah. And I've seen like, when I saw that guitar, I think for the first time when I saw you guys, I was like, oh, like that's a Jackson. Cause most of the time, like I think the very first guitar I had was a Jackson Warrior. It's just like the crazy, like X shaped, like, super metal, like,
right.
Definitely, not something. Cause I remember getting that. And then there was like stuff where, people were like, I grew up in a Christian household, so like I got like recruited to play on the church team, and I'm just bringing this metal looking like monstrosity to play like clean notes and whatever. But as far as like body shapes, it surprised me, because most of the time, especially for this music, LTDs, Ibanez's, Epiphones is like super common, but it was like kind of refreshing to see a Jackson, but not like a crazy looking one in a way. Yeah,
that's like my style for sure. Just like because I love the way that the guitars look. Like I love the way that 80s guitar look. I'm super, if you haven't noticed at this point, I'm super into like 80s style things and music and stuff. And just all like the thrash bands and like the glam bands and stuff like that, they all like were rocking like Jacksons and Kramers and like Charvels and stuff like that, and they always look so cool to me, because it's just like one solid color, like Fender body. I just like I love like that look. So
yeah,
who knows? Maybe I'll rock with like a Kramer next, or like I don't know. I'm just kind of keeping my options open. But for right now, Jackson is really doing it for me. So yeah.
And I'm sure like I'm probably like I think about it in a weird way because I've played guitar for years and I've always thought about like the type of guitar that you play is almost like a way to almost get your band a little bit more like someone to pay attention because like you know, it's lots of like LTD EC1000s or things like that, you know, so many different kinds of metalcore, hardcore bands. But as soon as I used to have a Fernandez Vertigo, which is kind of like if you take an Epiphone Explorer and just kind of like round out the edges of it. So it's kind of like this cool kind of shape. Sounded awesome because it's just like a large piece of wood. So like tone wise, it was awesome. But I've also found it where I'm following certain photographers or, you know, a videographer will throw up a set of a band I don't know, and then I'll like see the guitar is the first thing that I see. And if it's one that I don't recognize, I'm kind of almost paying more attention to like, okay, how are you getting that tone with like one humbucker? I don't understand that.
Right.
Right. Is there maybe a dream guitar that you would like to rock with Drain eventually? But
I mean, like I said, man, I mean, I'm keeping my options open. I really do want to get a second guitar with like a Floyd Rose type of deal with it. Just to kind of expand my playing, just kind of just add more things to, you know, just Drain, I guess. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, I know like my friend Anthony from Dead Heat, like he rocks a Kramer, and that looks really nice. I played it before and it feels really good. And, Charvel's I'm interested in those. Yeah, I don't know, just you know, once I find that guitar that will fit with me, then I'll go with it. But yeah, I mean, like Kramer for sure looks like very like interesting to me. So like I kind of want to like more. Yeah. And the fact that they're in 80s companies like type of deal, so it's like I love that stuff. So yeah.
Like you mentioning Charvel, like I think I was more put onto them when, you know, like Code Orange was like still Code Orange Kids, and like their one guitar player always played a Charvel with the reverse headstock. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's such an interesting guitar, especially for their kind of music. I don't think he plays it anymore.
Yeah, that's also my favorite era too of just the kids era, the Code Orange Kids era.
Right.
I love that era.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff, and then you know, the love is love, all that stuff. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we're kind of getting to that point where we can start to wrap up the show. So Cody, the kind of bookend segment here on the Scope podcast is a favorite mosh or show story that is off the top of your head. Either something, you know, like not every guest that I interview is like a pit warrior, so to speak, but even if it's something that you saw at a Drain show and it just kind of stuck with you with being just so ridiculous, anything that kind of comes to mind?
Well, shoot, off the top of my head, I remember, it was back in San Jose, there was a show, and it was like the Mongoloids last like Bay Area show. It was like the Mongoloids, and then it was like Take Offense, Bad Times Crew, which is like old like Hands of God, like basically like Jaffe Van's got like his old band.
Okay.
And these streets. I'm trying to think who else was on there too. But anyway, I think it was during I want to say it was during Bad Times Crew, and I remember I was like off to the side just like watching them, and I remember some kid like he was like on my side of like where I was at, and he like ran from my side and went like up on the stage, and then he like dove into like a group of like these girls, and they were like standing like in front of this table, and it was only like maybe like 4 girls. It wasn't even like a lot of like people like where he dove into, but he dove into them. They all collapsed, and then he like fell on this table, and like the table collapsed, and like everyone was like cheering like, "Oh fuck, that's crazy," like that. And I'll never forget that. I was like, damn, that was like insane. Like just like he just went full like just 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And as far as like trying to think like a mosh for myself, like a mosh story, like I don't know, man. Like I mean, I've definitely had a lot of like mosh times. I'm definitely not as crazy as I used to be. But shoot, like I don't even know. I mean, I can't even think of like one just off top of just me, just moshing. So I feel like I don't really have like a bunch of crazy stuff for myself. Like I'm not really like a crowd killer or anything. I just kind of like mosh in the middle type of deal. But I'm trying to think maybe if like for Drain, craziest thing I've seen for Drain, I don't even know really. I mean, we're always seeing kind of like some crazy stuff. You know, there's always like just people in the crowd just going nuts, which is really cool. But yeah, other than that, nothing really comes to mind as far as those two. But for sure, like that story with Bad Times Crew, that was like something that always like stuck with me. And I was like, damn, like I'll get that image of that little kid just jumping into that fucking table with the girls and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I'm always thinking about, you know, not normies, so to speak, but people on the outside who are like maybe just there and they're like, yeah, this guy just came out of nowhere and he was flying and he destroyed this table. Like, I would love to hear like their perspective, so to speak.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, Cody, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm loving all the stuff off California Cursed, and you know, I'm always feeling for bands who are kind of releasing, you know, bigger records, bigger for the band, kind of during this weird time. So anything that I can do to help, and hopefully this was something that helps you guys out in even just a small way. As far as how bands keep up with you how people can keep up with your band and you on social, what are the tags that I can kind of put on the screen here?
I'm sorry, what was that last part? I didn't catch it.
Oh, just as far as like if people want to keep up with you or the band on social media, what are the handles that I can put here?
Oh yeah, just Drain 831. I think Drain 831 for literally everything. I mean, like for the Twitter, for the Instagram, you know, like all the you know, the streaming platform type of deal, you know, YouTube, I guess. Like I'm pretty sure it's like all just Drain 831. So yeah. And then if people want to keep up with your riff page or just your page, so to speak. Yeah, my riff page. Yeah, it's just Codster_Roadster, and it's like it's CODSTER underscore then ROADSTER basically.
Word. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, definitely go stream California Cursed. You know, this will be out after the Hey 5-6 thing, but I'm sure that will be something that you can watch after. Definitely go support these guys. They're I think really pushing the envelope as far as, you know, thrash hardcore music is concerned. So again, Cody, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.